What is going on, everybody? And in this video, we are giving you a state of the market in stock picks for April 12th, 2022. If that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing as I do give daily and weekly updates to get you prepared for the day and week ahead. Yes, I try to gather all events, whether that is earnings, the Fed, and some technical analysis as well to help guide you along the way. So let's get straight into the state of the market. Ultimately, right now, what we are waiting on tomorrow, what the market is essentially moving on right now, is core CPI tomorrow. Now, I said in the weekly update, I didn't think it would hold a lot of weight. Uh, I don't think there's anything that's going to come from that report that's going to be surprising. I think everybody is well aware that inflation has been really bad. And we know that the Fed is going to continue to double rate hike until it feels it is caught up at this point. And none of that is surprising. The biggest thing I always like to point back to is until the bonds or the asset purchasing of the Fed stops, that backstop will be there, and big tech can run from that point. Even when that backstop is removed, you're going to have the initial sticker shock of like, oh, they just removed the backstop. Let's try to reprice that in, or is that priced in? And I think that's what's going on with the core CPI here as well. Coming into tomorrow, we started getting a little bit of selling today. We kind of gapped down. I think that was primarily because of the fact that Tesla came out with numbers essentially saying we did know that Tesla production numbers have come down because of restrictions in lockdowns in China. And I said we're going to see this butterfly effect coming into earnings. That was the first sign today, as far as percentage wise, that it dropped. I believe it was 18% as far as production has gone in China because of lockdown. So that is one small piece of the big puzzle that is about to display itself. And I don't know if that's why the market is moving, but we have banks earnings coming this week. And this is ultimately what is testing our financial structure and what will determine what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks going into the Fed. Again, I've always said the market will sell off before earnings. This is nothing new. A majority of the time, this is what happens. This is what we are seeing. We're breaking back some old supports. We're holding that 200. Now, if you look at the SPX, we are right at the 200 daily support. Now, normally, this is a really good spot to reverse, and we're hitting the bottom of the channel. Technical wise, this looks perfect. Tomorrow, I would expect us to hold the 44.10 mark, because the core CPI report is at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, so that'll come out an hour before the market is even open. Now, being said, when that happens, if it's the government has essentially been pushing hard that this inflation report is going to be the worst we've ever seen. Now, we know that this is nothing new. So if we come in at expectations, what's our expectations are high. If we come in at expectations and we hold this, it's only going to kick us off going into earnings. I think if we're going to essentially start rocketing back up, in my opinion, again, if there's nothing new, again, it's not my opinion, it's not your opinion, it's how the market will take it tomorrow. If the market's okay with it, I could see us bouncing straight back out of here and then potentially start going and retesting this top channel going into earnings. That's what could potentially happen. It's not saying it can't break through this. It certainly can break through this, but ultimately it's where we close tomorrow. We can open here, we can wick, we can jump all the way down to 43.54 and wick straight back up by the end of the day. The way this market is going, it would not surprise me. We needed a retest. If you look back here on the daily, I've been talking about this for a while. I really wanted this retest of this channel here, the top of the channel, the 44.12 mark. I've been talking about this since we broke it over here. I was expecting it right here on this first pullback, and that day we had a red, but we just kept going. And now we're starting to get this retracement. This is perfectly okay. If you go off of this move, going into here, right? That is almost at the 50% retracement on the Fibonacci. We can even still come down to the 61.8% and still be bullish. But my thing is I think we are playing this channel. I think this is a strong support. We have a very strong support. You can see the touch bases here. And it's at the 200-day EMA, which is a really good reversal point. I think the market in general, if the banks do really well, I think the banks do need to come through this week. If they show strong support, I think this thing can reverse and start heading back up. Again, something I've always said, we're going to sell off just before going to earnings. It happens almost every earnings cycle. It's just what it does. Trying to calm down some of the premiums, because a lot of times you get these parabolic moves right before earnings, and people are looking for the run-ups. Institutions are looking for the run-ups. So you get kind of this premium burn as far as the call side. And then from this point, you kind of get a little bit of consolidation, some chop, which we really kind of see a lot of that in the individual stocks. And then now we're starting, and then we can see a nice touch basis. And then whatever the reason is, whether you want to blame that on the CPI, we all know it's going to be bad. So there's nothing new there. So again, we hold this. I think banks do well. We're going to rocket straight out of here. Hopefully, we get some good earnings next week as well. That can kind of break us out essentially going into big tech earnings, which is at the end of the month. And I think we'll really start rocketing out of here. So we definitely have to see how tomorrow plays out. But that's what I'm looking at on the index in itself. Bitcoin has been selling off. I know a lot of people are panicking. We're getting back down to that level. We look pretty clean on the way up, but ultimately, again, I don't really think this has anything to do with core CPI. It's not going to make the Fed do anything more than they're already doing. They already know they're behind. They already know they got to start double rate hiking. They already know they got to do these things. And you're probably going to see a double rate hike every meeting for the next 2 meetings. I could probably almost say that's almost a guarantee at this point. They know they need to catch up. Bitcoin is something, crypto in itself is something. The Fed is really trying hard the U.S. wants to be number one in crypto now. So now they are playing catch up. Crypto is just consolidating a lot. Again, you have to look, even if you looked at the weekly, you're still getting a higher low here. You have to remember that you're looking at the weekly on this chart. This thing can wick right back up to the 40K mark, 41K mark, and then continue up and continue this channel. It looks like it's already starting to try to wick. Looks like it could potentially even turn this week. So if we potentially have a good bank earnings, this could wick straight right back up, and then we start pushing up to that top channel and start retesting that 50K mark. It's a very strong possibility. Could it potentially just start selling? It could. Anything is possible. Anything can go to zero. If you realize that anything can go to zero no matter what happens, then you will manage risk properly. But being said, I'm not trying to be harsh there. It's just something we all need to be aware of. I think crypto, I really think, is going to be strong. Even if it does sell back down, again, unless it really breaks the 32K mark, I'm not really worried about it. Could break the channel. It's done that before and continue to consolidate. My biggest thing here is the fact that it is consolidating a lot, and you have the U.S. government trying to be number one. It wouldn't surprise me if they are part of this consolidation. News coming out causing this thing to drop, manipulation, whatever you want to call it, to gather as much Bitcoin as possible. Then watch this thing hit all-time highs in the next couple months. Not saying it will happen. Again, I always suggest that it's important that you build your own thesis going into each and every day, and be aware of events and be aware of current market sentiments and what is going on. So again, just definitely watch the weekly on this. Again, I foresee this wicking back up and just continuing like nobody's business. The market in general, I think, is getting that way. We're in earnings season. We're going to start getting ramped up. But we do need a good earnings. If we start getting some bad earnings, The market could be a lot of junk and a lot more chop from this point. It's very strong potential, especially with sanctions. We want to see how sanctions are affecting, lockdowns are affecting. We're starting to see that with Tesla and what's happening with that. So we want to see how that does moving forward. There's services, I think, will be a big one. A lot of people are buying value plays, dividend stocks. Again, Walmart's, your Targets, your CVS, all these other particular stocks that people run to for needs. That no matter what happens in the world, you will always need, again, a roof, water, food. Those are the things that people are currently running to. So you might see more of a beatdown of tech again, possibly depending on how earnings go. So we have to see. But that is Bitcoin. I know that's not really what I talked about, but and then going into tomorrow, again, Tesla daily not looking so hot. We're starting to cool off a little bit. We're starting to come down. We do have the 20 weekly at the 940 mark. Strong support here. We did break. This is the first retest. If I could see a potential retest of this with potential heading back up. Again, now Tesla's kind of making its own range here now. I mean, you can even go based off of this. If you really wanted to start doing this on the weekly, I mean, that was a clean break back down below that, which is probably not a good sign. But nonetheless, we have to see how that plays out moving forward. I think this is possibly even temporary. It's hard to go off. Sometimes it's hard to go off these particular charts because of the fact that this is your first retest. So I expect at least if we do hit that 940 to get a nice bounce out of that, maybe that will be our bounce going into earnings. And then potentially things could be ramping down after that. Something I have talked about, I think we can ramp down after earnings and start selling off a little bit more because of the Fed and seeing what they do. Again, it's going to be a lot of volatile around every Fed meeting, essentially from here on out. It's not saying that the market's going to crash. I still just don't believe that. The market is designed to go up. So unless something, again, dramatically changes. Now, also going into tomorrow, I think it really depends on what happens tomorrow. Google is another big one I want to watch. I really want to watch the support level at 25.18 tomorrow. Let's see if it holds there. You can see this on the weekly. You can see this on the daily. That's been a very strong support. So I want to see this coming into here. Again, first retest of the zone tomorrow. If we do gap down into this, I want to get calls out of this and essentially try to ride this back out of here. Again, it is a very strong buy zone. As you can see, every time it's come into the zone, it's popped straight out of it. So definitely watching that around that 25 mark. The closer you get it down to 25, the better, because you can keep a tighter stop on it. Again, earnings are sitting at the 26th, so right at the end of the month. So if I do grab this, I'll be looking for something to try to cover earnings for the most part. But again, if market sentiment is continuing to sell, definitely keep that in mind, and I will be watching that. And I'm quick to cut it off if that's the case. Now, going into tomorrow, if the market's going to continue to sell, this is one I do want to watch. On the daily, this actually looks really good. It looks like it wants to start gapping up, especially after the split news. But even Google and Tesla announced split news, and with all the current market sentiment, a lot of these just kind of just died off and got diluted really quickly and didn't get to run at all. So one thing to keep in mind is Shop has really been holding the 600. That's where we're kind of getting at levels again, where the market really, some of these tech stocks really haven't bounced at all. And when it's going to bounce, it's going to be a very big move. So that's something to keep in mind, and not to just count tech completely out of this. I think there will be a rotation back into tech. Maybe we'll take a couple earnings to show that, hey, tech is still okay. It's not that big of a deal. Even with sanctions, I mean, Tesla even still put up some great delivery numbers. Production numbers are hurting a little bit. So people kind of foresee that in the future. But is it going to be in this earnings or later earnings? And you have to understand that Tesla even has a lot of other outlets. It's not just their cars. And so I think people get stuck on the cars Obviously, it came up as a car company, but with their energy and everything else, they're finding other ways to make revenue, and that's what's going to still keep them apart from all the other companies. So Shop, definitely one I want to watch. Watch at 600 level. It's holding the 626 mark. If you could break that, could get another potential run back to the 669, 670 mark. Strong possibility with Shop. So I definitely want to keep that on tabs. And another big one. Again, you got banks. You got JPM on Wednesday. I'm not a huge bank guy. Even bank's been playing a pretty tight range. DE could be potential tomorrow. Kind of looking for a wedge break on this tomorrow. Again, you got resistance here at the 425 mark. But if you can break essentially back over this wedge here, probably the 420, you could probably get a nice move up. It's been making some parabolic moves in the morning. It's had 2 days in a row, just massive candles. You're looking at almost a 10-point candle. So looking for that tomorrow. You don't need a lot of points in a market like this. You want to kind of be in and out. So, and then I think another big one I was looking at was Love. It's got a nice wedge here and a nice base here. As long as it doesn't break the 46 mark, you definitely want to be in if it breaks that. But if you can get a break above the 48, I think you get a clean shot. Again, you got resistance at the 52. You got resistance at the 56. But I think with the way value and everything is right now, value's really been getting some nice pops in the morning for pretty good percentages for the most part. And Love might be one to watch tomorrow. I don't really like playing value too much because of the fact that it normally goes pretty haywire. But considering the whole market's been kind of going haywire lately, I think it's good to mention some of these other stocks going into tomorrow. And that's pretty much where I'm going to leave it tonight. I don't have a lot of picks. Kind of watching a lot of the same stuff. Primarily Tesla, Google, Love, I think are big ones to be watching. The chips have really been getting beaten down bad. So trying to avoid the chips until they figure out what's going on. The index is always a good one to play sometimes when things are going off. Like I said, on the daily, if this thing does decide to hold tomorrow, I might actually just take XPX calls going into tomorrow just to play up to that top of that channel might be a better play. Sometimes things are so scattered and everything, and if the banks want to start pushing and some of the other stocks are kind of mix and mingle like it was today, sometimes it's easier just to play the index. And so that's what I might be looking at tomorrow as well. So I'll keep this video short. Again, there was a lot of info in the beginning. I think it's necessary. I think you need to kind of get all your ducks in the row ready for tomorrow, considering what could potentially happen tomorrow with the CPI. Again, I don't think it's going to have a lot of weight. It's not going to weigh in on what the Fed is going to do. The Fed already has their mind made up. The market may think otherwise, but I think there won't be anything really surprising tomorrow. Even with them advertising that's going to be bad, people already know it's going to be bad. And then it's more so just seeing how the banks are holding up through all this. If they do well, I could see us possibly heading back up very soon, very quickly. So again, we have to see. No promises, but we'll see how it goes. So if you made it this far, appreciate you. Go ahead and drop a like. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.